Welcome to this SUPboarder review of the Adventum Paddlesports range. Now this is a brand new company to hit the stand-up paddleboard market. We're excited to give you this review, but first, if you are tuning in for the first time, thank you very much, and we really want to thank you if you have watched these videos before. We really thank you for your support. In this video, you're going to hear all about these boards, their specifications, the construction, how the boards are made, how they feel on the water. We're going to go through all the fittings on the board as well. And then obviously at the end, we're going to give you our thoughts and impressions, our pros, cons, value for money, and of course, who these boards are going to suit, because there's a few different boards in the Adventum Paddlesports range. Adventum Paddlesports is linked with Gladiator SUP as their budget line. And if you'd like more information about this, please do check out the links below this video. So let's have a look at what boards we have in the Adventum Paddlesports range today. Let's start with the 10 feet 8 iSUP that we have in front of us. So this board is 10 feet 8 inches long. It is 34 inches wide and comes in at 6 inches thick. The total volume is 220 liters and the board weighs 11 kilograms. It's recommended at 18 psi. This is an all-round iSUP, great for those beginners getting into the sport. And the recommended retail price is 360 British pounds. Next up, we're going to move down in size. We're going to have a look at the 10 feet 6 inch Adventum. Now, 10 feet 6 inches long, 32 inches wide, and 6 inches thick. The total volume equals 200 liters, and the board weighs 10 kilograms. The recommended PSI again is 18. The 10.6 retails at 350 British pounds. Lastly, in the Adventum range, we have the 10 feet 4 inch paddleboard. So 10 feet 4 inches long, 31 inches wide, and 6 inches thick. The total's a volume of 180 liters, and the board weighs 9.5 kilograms. And this board retails for 340 British pounds. Taking a look at the construction across all three boards, and they are the same, which uses a light tech technology drop stitch. Now the Adventum uses a premium double layer along the rails, and you can see that it is a really solid manufactured board. Now taking a look at the whole package you get with purchase, opening up the bag, you have the pump, kayak seat, fin, paddle. We also get a leash, a repair kit, and of course the board itself. And running through those contents, starting with the bag, it is quite a comfortable bag to carry. It's got quite a few handles on it for easy maneuverability. There is a slight bit of back padding as well, but the bag is nice and big. It opens up fully so you can fit that board in, which is one of the real highlights of this bag. Taking a look at the pump that you get with the package, and it is a great double action pump. Simple, just nice and black. On the upstroke and on the downstroke, you can be pumping it into the board. And if that PSI gets up to that higher pressure, you can switch it over to that single action using the lever on the pump. And that way you'll pump up just on the downstroke, so it makes it a little bit easier to lift up. Now taking a look at the paddle, it is a 4-piece aluminium kayak and SUP paddle. So you can use it for different things, can transfer it into a kayak paddle, which is nice to have if you are going to be sitting down on the board. But it does also have the channels on the paddle, so it's an anti-twist, which means it's really nice when you are paddling. It's not going to twist on you. The shaft is aluminium and the blade is a nylon, but it's a fairly bendy nylon, so you can actually bend it back. It's not the most performance paddle on the market, but it is going to be nice and durable if you're just starting out in stand-up paddling and you're not too worried about knocking it on the rocks and things like that. It's going to really be good value for you over time. Moving on to the leash that you get with the package as well. Now, this leash is a very basic leash. You'll see there's a string at one end to connect to the D-ring, and you need to thread the loop Velcro through that. Now, it is a coiled leash, and like we said before, it's very much a no-frills leash, but it's going to do the job out there on the water. It's going to connect you to the board and keep you safe as well. Remember, if you are paddling in moving water, do make sure you connect a waist leash to this leash, or even upgrade the leash as well, which is just going to give you extra safety out on the water, and it's a necessity if you are paddling in that moving water. Lastly, we'll speak about the fin. Now, it is a plastic single fin that you get. It is a US center fin box, so you will need to use the plate and the screw that does come with the package, and that is hidden in the repair kit. Simple process fixing the fin to the board, slot the plate in, and you screw the screw into that plate through the hole in the fin. Now the fin, it doesn't have too much area to it, so it is going to affect some of the things such as tracking, and we'll get to that later in the review. But it is that standard dolphin shape. This is very typical of a fin you would find in a surfing SUP in the center at the back. Really good, not much area at the top here for when you are riding waves. It's going to flex a little bit, and not too much area at the bottom as well, but it would be nice to see maybe a slightly bigger fin, bigger area. We will touch on this later in the review. The seat is fairly comfortable. It's got a little bit of storage at the back as well, so it's got a little pocket at the back there, and it connects to the D-rings on the board. Now, speaking of those D-rings, we're going to go into the fittings of this board here. Right at the nose of the board, we'll notice that we have a handle, which is really handy when you are maneuvering the board in shallow water. Just back from that, we have the bungee system, storage of gear, quite a small area, but again, these boards are an all-round introductory board for those beginner riders, so you're not going to be storing too much gear there, maybe slide a dry bag under there or your shoes, something like that. Moving back from that, we have the deck pad. Now this is a crocodile skin deck pad, quite grippy, not super grippy, but enough to get you out on the water and enjoying it. And that deck pad runs right back, and you can see that there's that diamond cutoff at the end. If we make our way back up onto the board, we've obviously got our center carry handle, which is well weighted when you are carrying the board. And on each side of those are those D-ring attachments. There's 4 of those to be able to connect a kayak seat to as well. Right at the tail of the board, we have our valve point, and just behind that, another handle for maneuvering your board in shallow water, lifting it up. And then behind that is the D-ring for your leash attachment. Underneath, flipping the board over, we just have that single center fin at the tail of the board. And then also right at the nose of the board, we do have a towing attachment as well. The outline shape of all of these boards is quite similar. Obviously the widths do change across different boards, and we're going to highlight that when we talk about each board separately. However, overall, we consider that nose has quite a little pulled in nose to it, which is a great shape because it holds its width just back from that bungee area, which means you're getting great straight line tracking because the rail is parallel for a lot longer. A really stable outline because it does hold its width back to the tail. You are getting great stability. Before we start looking at these boards, let's have a look at the deflection test where we put these boards through the stiffness test. What this does is it really just gives you an idea of how good the boards are going to perform on the water. So a board that is a lot stiffer is going to perform better. If a board is bendy, it's not going to perform as well because obviously it's going to be pushing water. You're not going to be getting the performance needed out there. So these boards in the deflection test, we get a 1.5 meter gap, place a 75 kilogram weight on the middle, and we see how far that board bends. All boards deflected at 14 millimeters, which is fairly good for our test considering that these boards at that 18 PSI, we do get a lot of other boards that deflect between 8 and 27 millimeters. So you're getting good performance out of these boards. So the 3 boards we have here, they are suited to different types of riders, different weight of rider, different size, and a different ability level as well. So still all that beginner ability toward that intermediate, but definitely the weight range is going to change across all of these boards. Starting with the 10'4" by 31 inches wide. Now I'm going to firstly say that a lot of boards are usually 32 inches wide as that kind of standard for beginner iSUPs. However, this board being that 31 inches wide, it's really catering to those lighter riders in that weight range from about 50 to 55 kilograms to about 75 kilograms. That is a really good sweet spot if you are in between that to get on this board, and you are going to have a lot of fun because firstly, a 10'4", it's just a little bit shorter than most all-round iSUPs, so you're going to get a bit more maneuverability on the water. Doing a step back turn for me, or even just turning around from the middle there, was very, very easy. It's quite sensitive as well, but myself, I weigh about 85 kilograms, so I'm definitely over that weight limit of that beginner rider if you were to do it. Obviously, I've had some experience before, and if you are an experienced rider looking to get a more entry-level board, maybe for yourself or for a friend, then definitely take that into consideration when you are thinking about the weight limits for these boards. Now the 10.4 by 31, like we've said, has that little bit less width, so it is a little bit tippy on the stability front personally for me. But for those riders in that weight range, you are definitely going to get some great stability on this board. You're going to have great maneuverability, and it does track really well, as we've mentioned, because of that outline shape. One of the biggest pros to the 10.4, which is behind me here in that pink, is just that it's really lightweight. So it's super easy to carry down to the water's edge. That's what we really liked about this board, especially for those lighter weight riders in that lower, lighter weight range. They're going to find it really easy to carry, which is such a great thing when you are buying your first board. You want to make it as easy as possible for you. Let's move on to the 10.6 by 32 inches wide. Now this is definitely your standard all-round iSUP size. 10.6, 32 inches wide, but like we've said before, that outline shape is slightly different, so it's giving you added tracking, which means you're paddling in a straight line for longer. This board is definitely suited to those riders in that 60 to 65 kilogram to up to about 85 to 90 kilogram weight range. So a good weight range there for a lot of beginner paddlers to get into the sport on a well-constructed board that is still maneuverable, it's still lightweight as well, and you're still going to have a lot of fun out on the water. So this board with that maneuverability, stepping back on and doing a step back turn, it is fairly easy. Again, you can maneuver it from the middle as well, and that really does come down to that smaller fin, and we'll speak about that in a little bit later as well in the review. But with that smaller fin, you can maneuver the board a little bit easier. It is going to come around a lot quicker when you are doing a turn. However, you're going to lose out on a little bit of tracking and a little bit of stability as well. However, this board sits nice and flat in the water, so you are getting some great stability from that. And like we've said, with that outline shape, a nice wide tail, gaining a bunch of balance from that. Probably the biggest thing about the 10.6 is that it's just a great usable size for the majority of us out there who are getting into paddleboarding or who are looking for a good board at that lower price point. It's that all-round shape and size, but you're getting some great added features in the design to really enhance your performance out there on the water. Now moving on to the 10 feet 8 by 34 inches wide. This is the red one here in front of me with the kayak seat attached. Now this board, being that 34 inches of width, is a fantastic board if you are in that weight range of 80, 85 kilos up to about 110 kilograms. Because of that added width of 34 inches, you're getting so much more stability, and it does have a really great deflection, so you can put a little bit more weight on this board and it's not going to lose its shape too much. Of course, if you are at that upper weight limit, you can pump up this board a little bit more PSI, and that's going to give you a little bit stiffer, a little bit more performance out on the water too. But this board is really suitable for heavier riders. Maybe you're going to take your dog out there as well paddling, maybe even your kid, pop your kid on the front if you do have a family and you are thinking of buying a family board. It's a really lightweight board as well for its size, so it's fantastic to be able to carry down to the water and maneuver around, put on top of the car, or easily lift up and put into the car. And it was the stability that really was the shining feature of this board. Sitting down as a kayak on this, it was really easy to paddle, no issues at all. I wanted to really test out the kayak on the SUP because I've actually never put a kayak seat on a stand-up paddleboard. I'm going to say, there we go, I've said it. I've never done it before. And I'm sure a few of you haven't either, but it is quite a fairly comfortable way. And if you weren't keen on standing up for the whole session, it's a great addition to have because you can stand around the handle and away from that as well. So you can kind of do a bit of both. Again, maneuverability was nice and easy thanks to that smaller fin. However, you are going to sacrifice that tracking like we said before. So moving into the cons of these boards, some of the negatives we found. Definitely first I'm going to speak about the fin. Just being that smaller, single, kind of raked fin, you're not getting great tracking from that. A fin with a lot more area, or that kind of touring style, kind of straight up and down fin, or just a bit more area on it would be fantastic to add extra tracking to these boards. Moving on to the next negative we found, it's just that deck pad at the back there. If you did want to do a step back turn, because it is cut off at an angle, I noticed that my foot, or at least my toes, were stepping over that cutoff area, and it gets really slippery if you're not standing on the deck pad. So it'd be nice if the deck pad was just maybe squared off at the end there, and you kind of keep this cut off here on the diagonal. Another con that we have is also the paddle as well. Obviously, being that aluminium shaft and that nylon blade, it's not giving you the greatest performance. It's okay for that beginner paddler to get on the water, but if you were that heavier rider, maybe looking at getting on the 10.8 by 34 inches wide, then if you've got a lot of power in that stroke, you're going to start to bend that aluminium shaft, and it's really hard to bend it back into shape. Obviously, the nylon blade as well, it kind of flexes, so it's not giving you that great performance. So it'd be really great if you could upgrade that paddle. And another con that I'll mention is just the environmental credibility of Adventum. Obviously, things did come wrapped in plastic in the bag. So if you were wanting to buy a bit more eco-friendly, definitely have a look at some of the other brands out there that are doing that. Really hope that we see Adventum kind of push toward that environmental credibility in the future, because they are making really nice boards. It's not the best kayak seat that you're going to get with the package. It's fairly basic, and it's a little bit flimsy as well. But you'd expect that from the price point of these boards, so you probably could upgrade or get a better kayak seat from somewhere else that would really go well if you are going to use this as a kayak. I do like the storage pocket at the back there, and it was kind of cool as a novelty for me to try it. As you all know, these reviews are totally honest, and if I am completely honest with you, the value for money that this board brings to the market is really top quality. You're getting a really well-constructed board, some excellent fittings as well. It's super lightweight, and it's all for 350 pounds roughly. You do get a standard 1-year manufacturer's warranty on all of these boards, which is at that lower limit of warranties. However, for this price point, you could kind of expect that the warranty would only be 1 or 2 years. So there you go. I really hope that I was able to shed some light and bring you some more details on this new brand, Adventum Paddlesports. If you did like this review, please do press the like button and also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get updated with more content from SUPboarder. Thanks very much for tuning in to this range overview of the Adventum Paddlesports board. Remember, if you want the 10.4, you're going to need to be a lighter weight rider. If you are in that mid-weight range, looking for the 10.6, and if you are the heavier rider, go for the 10.8, because you're definitely going to enjoy it more on the water with a bit more stability. Thanks again, and we'll see you very soon on another SUPboarder review.